presents the Major League Baseball Game of the Week. Today from Busch Memorial Stadium, it's the Cincinnati Reds versus the St. Louis Cardinals. The Game of the Week is brought to you by Ford, who invites you to drive the new Ford Escort. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Miller Beer. Miller made the American way since 1855. By Cannon Copiers. And by Mr. Goodwrench and General Motors Parts.
Last night at Busch Stadium, Danny Cox of the Cardinals flirted with a perfect game, had it for 7 2/3, settled for a two-hitter. Cards beat the Reds 6-0. Today, Tom Browning for Cincinnati, Kurt Kepshire for St. Louis. Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Costas, and with me, the sensational Cardinal rookie, Vince Coleman. Vince, they talk about Ricky Henderson, they talk about Lou Brock, and then they start mentioning Vince Coleman. That could go to a guy's head.
Yeah, it does. You know, I tend to think about it at times, but, you know, it's rewarding to be classified with those guys. And, you know, a guy like Lou Brock, that can only tell me a couple of things, is that I played the game for 19 years and be in the Hall of Fame and make plenty of money.
If that happens, someday people will start carrying around your baseball card.
Yeah, that's true. I don't even have a baseball card. I'm waiting to receive my first one.
Are you having fun, though?
Having plenty of fun. Meeting, you know, guys like Pete Rose and Garvey, you know, each and every day, you know, those well-established Major League guys. And, you know, it's a thrill to go out and play against those guys.
Speaking of Pete Rose, he's with Tony Kubek.
All right, thank you, Bob. Pete, the Whitey Herzog running game, can it be stopped? How do you try and stop it?
I don't think the Whitey Herzog running game or Stone and Samuel at Philadelphia can be stopped because they're such great base stealers. I think the thing I try to get into my pitcher's head is just don't walk them. Make them hit their way on it. If they hit their way on and steal the bases, nothing you can do about it. But if you start dickering around with them and walk them, then you're asking for trouble.
What about Pete Rose, the player manager? What problems have you seen thus far through this season? Any?
Well, I haven't really had any problems. I think I could handle them. Tony, I think the biggest thing I had to adjust to was sending guys out in the minor leagues. You know, cutting them off the team, sending them back to the minors. And 2 weeks ago, I had to send 2 guys down and bring 2 guys up because they are my teammates. I have feeling for my teammates, and they're my friends, and it's just tough to send them back to the minors.
Pete, our thanks to you. We'll be back to St. Louis starting lineups and Whitey's track team and Pete's team here in St. Louis.
Hi, I'm Danny Cox, pitcher for the St. Louis Cardinals. Today I'll be giving you the lineup for the Cincinnati Reds. Leading off playing left field will be Gary Redus. Batting second playing center field will be Eddie Milner. Batting third is the great Pete Rose playing first base. Batting fourth playing right field is Dave Parker. Batting fifth and catching is Alan Nicely. And batting sixth, the guy who broke up my perfect game last night is Dave Concepcion. He'll be playing shortstop. I hate to do it, but I have to support my kid. Batting seventh, playing second base, is Ron Oyster. Batting eighth, playing third base, Wayne Princhecki, excuse me. And pitching for the Cincinnati Reds will be Tom Browning.
He ruled them as if they were his servants last night. He struck out 3, walked nobody, and with 2 outs in the 8th inning, Concepcion hit a low fastball through the hole, a clean base hit into left field. That broke it up. Oster followed with a soft single, the only 2 hits Cox allowed.
They can catch the ball, this Cardinal team, let alone hit it. Coleman, McGee, Landrum in right field. Van Slyke injured. Pendleton, Smith, Tommy Herr, Clark at first base. Tom Nieto, who's won the job from Porter, and Kurt Kepshire. All Whitey Herzog and Mike Rourke, the pitching coach, want him to do is throw strikes. He's walked 15 in his last 16 innings pitched. So if he can throw strikes to this big ballpark, Bob, he's got a chance.
Ball 1 to Redus. Kepshire previously had been a good control pitcher. His last major league outing, May 22nd against Atlanta, he walked 4 in 2/3 of an inning before being knocked out. Then they used him in an exhibition game on Monday at Louisville. He pitched 6 innings, gave up 6 hits, and walked 3. If he doesn't pitch well today, his spot in the rotation will be in definite jeopardy. 2 balls and a strike.
If the Cardinals are to contend in the East, they've got to get Kepshire on the beam. Tudor has struggled. One of their left-handed starters, he's 1-7. And Neil Allen's going to have to pitch better.
And Kepshire falls behind Redus 3-1. The Cardinals have had a bullpen by committee of late. Allen has relinquished his nominal stoppers role, and they've been using Horton, Daly, and Campbell with reasonable effectiveness the past few weeks. Redus rips it foul, and the count is full.
Reedus, who has speed and power. Billy DeMars, their third base coach and hitting instructor, has tried to cut down his swing a little bit, so he puts the ball in play more. He's always been a big swinger. 2 years ago, he hit 17 home runs, struck out a lot. Last year, his whole season went down the drain.
And the payoff. A bad sign for the Cardinals. Reedus draws a game-opening walk, and it'll bring up Milner. Jerry Davis is the plate umpire today. There he is. Harry Wendelstadt at first. He's the crew chief. Terry Tate at second, and Jerry Crawford at third.
So now we're talking about Kepcher has walked at least 16 in his last 17 innings. Kurt Kepshire. They want him to throw the changeup a little bit more. His fastball runs away, and he has a slider. Doesn't do you any good if you can't get any of them over the plate.
He could have taken lessons on how to throw the changeup from Danny Cox last night. He used it masterfully. Reedus goes, they pitch out, and Nieto's throw doesn't get him anyway. Nieto had a little trouble getting the ball out of his glove, and Reedus had a good jump, and despite the pitch out, steals it.
It has been a problem over the last few years, in fact, since Johnny Bench left, getting somebody the Reds can get to throw a base runner out occasionally. Even on a pitch out, you can see what Gary Reedus does. The head first slide, he goes to the outfield slide away from the tag. Game's getting so an artificial surface. The Milners, the Reeduses, the Colemans, the McGees, they just outrun the catcher and the pitcher.
The count goes to 2-0 on Milner, who's slumping at 210. Rose is on deck. 3-0.
He is just aiming the ball. There's Pete. Like he's saying, let me start it down the middle, and he's not throwing the ball hard, and the ball is just running right out of the strike zone. They've tried to get him to throw it with a little more velocity to take some movement off the ball to kind of control it more.
You mentioned how important it is for the Cardinals that Kepshire come through and John Tudor get back on the beam. Combined, those two are 3-11. Andujar and Cox combined are 15-2.
Look out. He had him. Oh, that was close. What a play by Ozzie Smith. It was not the daylight play. He kind of left the ball behind him, but he took the throw on the run, and I don't know how Ozzie even got his glove on this ball. The ball was a little bit behind him. If he had been a fraction of a second quicker, they've got the tag, and he's out. Here it is from another angle. So many pitchers are frightened to throw to second base because they figure if they throw the ball away, ball's in center field, the run could score, he's at least at third. But with Ozzie there, why worry, huh? He's going to get his glove on everything.
Now the 3-1. A called strike, the count is full.
Miller, of course, should be trying to pull the ball to the right side. Even now, Rose expects fundamental play from his players, things he's done all his life. Get the ball to the right side, get Reedus to third. So the basic jobs of the two-hitter. He's got him.
They do have him, but the throw gets away. Reedus is being waved home by Billy DeMars. Here's Willie McGee's throw. It's 1-0 Cincinnati.
Kepshire had him by so much, he threw a changeup. Threw a changeup to Ozzie, and it fooled him. The runner, what might have been off and going, he was at least leaning. Ozzie Smith, twice in this series, puts on the pickoff, and watch how much they've got Reedus. I don't believe he was stealing, but he was at least leaning, and a nice changeup sinker that got by Smith.
He wasn't even coming back to the bag. They were going to have him hung up between second and third.
Look at the speed of Reedus. It'll be a two-base error on the pitcher, Kepshire.
Coleman started in, now has to break back on Milner's fly ball and makes the catch.
Well, your little talk with Vince Coleman about speed and how dominant speed is becoming just showed. Gary Reedus stole second on a 3-2 pitch. I believe he was only leaning. And Ozzie Smith had him dead, and Kepshire threw the ball away. You just saw why pitchers do not like to throw and pick off at second base. For this reason.
All right, now Rose. Ball 1 to him. He's at 277 overall. Hasn't played much against left-handers. He's 1 for 13 from the right side. He's batting .299 left-handed. 1-1.
His as long as Tony Perez comes in and does the job he's done the last few ball games, driving in runs, Pete'll continue to bench himself against left-handed pitchers.
Well, they'll face a righty tomorrow, Bob Forsch, against Jay Tibbs to close the series. Forsch has given the Cardinals good work as a 5th starter of late. The 1-1. 2 balls and a strike to Rose. When the season began, he needed 95 hits to pass Ty Cobb's record. Only one player in this century has had as many as 95 hits at age 44 or older. 2-2 as Kepshire took something off. Sam Rice, a Hall of Famer who played most of his career with the Senators, was with the Cleveland Indians in 1934, and at the age of 44 had 98 hits and batted .293. Rose will have to match that performance if he wants the record. 3rd straight batter that Kepshire has run the count full on. Wow. Bounce to Clark. He'll take it himself for the 2nd out.
The thing about Rose is he's never stopped learning. You can call him an overachiever if you want. But Rose, yesterday in batting practice, Billy DeMars was watching him, and he was asking him, what am I doing wrong? And he said, you're rolling the top hand over. That's why you're grounding out to the right side so weakly. So he tried to adjust in batting practice today. The fellow who just caught that ball at first base is playing an outstanding first base. Jack Clark in right field last night because of Van Slyke's injury.
Van Slyke is available for pinch hitting duty. Injured a calf a week ago in Cincinnati, but not in the starting lineup today. Parker now. Swings and misses as Kepshire took something off it.
Parker has never been a pull hitter, even when he was leading the National League in hitting. They always played him straight away or shaded him a little bit toward left center field. You can see where McGee is, dead center field. Parker will hit the ball with power, left center. And with Kepshire's fastball running away as it does when he has control of it, it's difficult to pull.
Count is 0-2, not 1-1. That last pitch clicked off Parker's bat. Way outside and high. 1-2 now.
Parker, who's been an MVP in All-Star competition. Remember that All-Star game in Seattle? He'll be there again this year with the year he's had.
Just reaches for one and taps it foul.
Got his bat. That's the kind of fastball that Mike Warwick wants Kepshire to throw. If he can, keep it down. Runs away. Better outside half of the plate than in. Although he's got to pitch inside, too. He'll go with a 4-seamer on occasion and come inside the left-handed hitters. More to straighten them up than actually to get them out with. You ever seen Parker in better condition than he is right now? He looks like he did 10 years ago. Taking some weight off, made it easier on his knees, swinging the bat more freely.
Out of play. Well, last year he drove in better than 90 runs, and this year he gives indications of having even a better season, coming in today at .313 with 8 homers and 33 RBIs.
No question, since Rose took over last season, you look back in September when the Reds had a good record in the National League for that month, that there's an added enthusiasm for the older players. Rose has done that by setting the example.
2-2. The inning began with Reedus drawing a walk. He stole second on a pitch out, and then a wild pickoff throw into center field from Kepshire allowed him to score from second base, and they had him dead to rights on the play if the throw had been accurate.
Kepshire misses. He's not missing in one area. That's something a pitching coach can iron out, or a catcher even. He's too low, he's too high, he's outside. He's wild all over. Now he's inside with this one. Sometimes if you're wild high, a pitching coach can see a mechanical problem, get out there and rectify it.
He has gone to 3-2 on every hitter in this inning. But he strikes Parker out to end the frame. No runs, no hits, but a walk, a stolen base, and an error produced a Cincinnati run and a 1-0 lead after half an inning. 25-year-old left-hander Tom Browning, and the lineup he'll face: Holman, the leadoff man, with 31 stolen bases. Willie McGee, who swiped 19 himself, is in center field. Tommy Herr, baseball's leading hitter, batting third, playing second base. Jack Clark, who had a homer last night, a long one it was, is the cleanup man and first baseman. Terry Pendleton at third base, batting fifth. Tito Landrum in right field, he'll hit sixth. Ozzie Smith plays short and bats seventh. Tom Nieto catches, and Kurt Kepshire pitches. Browning, Tony, was off to a 4-2 start with an ERA of 1.70 before his last 2 outings, and he's been hit hard in both. His record is now 4-4, and his ERA has climbed a full run to 2.73.
Reedus, Milner, and Parker, they can all go get the ball. Krenchicki down at third. Dave Concepcion at short. Ron Oster off an injury at second. Pete Rose at first. Allen Nicely catching. Tom Browning, who's added that screwball. Harry Dorish, his minor league manager, felt he had a good fastball. Pretty good slider. Needed the off-speed pitch, and he taught him the screwball. And he's got to pitch inside. They start leaning over for that screwball. He's got to get him in on the fence.
Ball 1 to Coleman, who had been slumping a little bit, but went 3 for 4 with a walk and a couple of steals last night.
Krenchicki and Rose up tight at the corners.
Fluffs the bunt and takes a strike.
Coleman is just learning how to switch hit. He's a natural right-handed hitter. Johnny Lewis, now their major league hitting instructor, got him to switch hitting just a few years ago. He's a strong guy.
2-1. The key for Coleman, says Whitey Herzog, is simply to be patient enough to get ahead on the count. If he does that, he's going to see a lot of fastballs because pitchers are fearful of walking him. You don't want to put this guy aboard if you can possibly help it with his great speed. That time he fouled off the curveball, 2-2. The 31 steals for Coleman already establishes a Cardinal rookie record. Jake McBride swiped 30 in 1974. Full count.
Coleman already has 14 base on balls, so he is waiting out a lot of pitchers.
And he draws a walk to open the Cardinal first. And the anticipation already begins. Cardinals have been drawing well, 39,000 last night. They're an exciting team to watch. They've got a good crowd here today, and as soon as Coleman started to trot down to first, you could hear that buzz.
Pitchers get mental blocks when base stealers like Coleman or Brock or Morgan and Henderson get up at home plate. Their managers tell them, just throw strikes right down the middle, make them hit their way on, and they start aiming the ball, and you see what happens.
Pickoff throw. That one was nearly wild, but Pete saved it.
That is that, well, you've seen Dave Rigetti do it. More and more left-handers are doing it now, where they step off with the back foot. It's very quick, something that Coleman didn't know he had. He gets a very, very big lead against left or right-handers. Nice play by Rose. They had him dead, didn't they? His feet gave way.
One more look at it, Tony.
When he steps off like that, the umpires are very careful to watch that he doesn't break his hands before he moves the left foot back. And he doesn't have to throw because he stepped off the rubber. Rose saved him a 2-base error.
Not going, and a swing and a miss. Willie McGee at 336 is the National League's second leading hitter after Tommy Herr's 372.
Jim Cox is the Reds pitching coach, and he has tried to teach some of these pitchers, Frank Pistoia to the bullpen, Browning, that quick delivery that he used so well, taught them by Johnny Sain. There it is. Close. He is close. Harry Wendelstadt right down there. Got his own umpiring school. So many of these umpiring crews now will all pick a different area of the pitcher's body to watch. A first base umpire might watch the feet. Third base umpire might watch the head and shoulder movement. Somebody else might watch a crack of the knee for a ball.
The 0-2 is fouled off.
One thing I noticed last night when Coleman got on, he's learned to read pitch outs pretty well, which is a difficult thing for some base stealers. He's learned that when a pitcher speeds up his delivery in order to him out, he's either coming over to first or pitching out to get rid of the ball. And for that reason, he won't go.
Here he goes. No, he's just bluffing. They throw in behind him, and he gets back.
Just what I was talking about. Browning sped up his delivery quicker than normal, and Coleman had the 2 false steps, read the pitch out, and came back. A little bit quicker action by Browning, and Coleman read it.
To the count. Got him leaning, but didn't get him.
I mean, he took one step towards second base and still was quick enough to get back. So that fall step, he was going. So many people teach the crossover step. Left over right. He lifts that right foot up on occasion first.
Not going, and Willie McGee is a strikeout victim. One thing Browning did not do, he didn't let Coleman's presence force him to feed a steady diet of fastballs to McGee. He got him with off-speed stuff and with that screwball.
I'll tell you, the base stealing game now is taking the spotlight and the focus off the home run hitter. It's all on the guy in first base now. There's changing scouting techniques, looking for speed for these turfs.
The Cardinals' first 5 hitters are switch hitters, including this guy, Herr. Coleman, McGee, Herr, and Pendleton. All switch hitters. And then later on in the lineup, you've got Ozzie Smith. So 5 of them in the order today for Whitey Herzog. Before this year, Tommy Herr's highest single-season RBI total was 49 last year. He's tied for the league lead with his teammate Jack Clark at 39 on June 1st. Pitch. Lofted into center field. Milner will be there. Coleman tags just to draw a throw.
Nieto was catching, and Renaissance, I alluded to, since Johnny Bench left. Not many guys being thrown out by Reds catchers. And nicely, and they've been looking for a catcher. They think he'll hit some. They're not sure about his defensive ability at this point. Cincinnati's really openly since spring training been looking for a catcher. But so many other teams are also. Cardinals would like to have another one, I think, now that Porter's been slumping.
There he goes. Nicely throw. Doesn't get him. That's 32.
Well, you're talking about people now that are just outrunning the baseball. Look at the lead he's got, even off the left-hander. 1 foot on the turf. Sometimes he goes head first. Sometimes feet first. About 3 years ago, he did not slide very well. Rich Hacker, one of the Cardinals supervisors in scouting, had to show him how to slide without hurting himself. He can really steal third base, too. What's he been caught 1 time trying to steal third?
Stolen third 11 out of 12 tries. He's been caught 8 times overall. 32 successes in 40 attempts now. Low to Clark, 2-0. There are the leaders. Murphy has cooled just a little bit after his awesome start.
Clark leads the National League in walks, and you might see one right now with first base open.
Whoa, he drills it into left field. Reedus closing ground on it. He couldn't handle it. Coleman is going to score. Clark is on his way to second, and the ball game is tied.
Browning did not have his head in the game right there. He's got first base open. Jackie Clark, who leads the National League now and runs batted in. He just broke the tie with her. Had a chance to make him hit his pitch, and I think it might have been a screwball he got up. Reedus circles the ball just a little bit. He started back. The ball was hit on the end of the bat by Clark and then started sinking. This certainly wouldn't let a right-handed cleanup hitter driving a run with Pendleton, who might do it also, but not as likely. Wouldn't let him hit on that pitch.
Strike 1 to Terry. Andy Van Slyke has established himself in the past 6 weeks or so as a very good number 5 hitter, and he's protected Clark a little bit. But Van Slyke, as we say, has a slight leg injury and not available today, at least not to start. He could pinch hit. And with the left-hander going, Whitey doesn't want to force the left-handed hitting Van Slyke back any sooner than he has to. 0-2 to Pendleton. Up. Rose wants it in foul ground. That'll do it. But the Cardinals come back with a run on the Coleman walk, his 32nd steal, and the RBI double by Clark to tie it. We stay in the National League next week. Dodgers and the Braves from Atlanta. Vin and Joe will have it. Pirates go against the Cubs. Tony and I will be at Wrigley. It starts at 3 Eastern Time with the pregame show next Saturday on NBC.
Cubs trying to get through. Rick Sutcliffe out with that hamstring pull. Trout with an elbow injury. Arthroscopic surgery on the knee of Gary Matthews. And they're hanging in there.
The Mets lead the division by a game. The Cubs are in second place. Montreal third, 2 back. And the Cardinals now trail by 4. First one to nicely is a ball from Kepshire. The Cards are 24-21, 3 over 500. The Reds are tied with Houston for second, back of San Diego in the West. A ball and a strike. The Reds and Astros each trail the Padres by 4. Both 2 games over 500 at 24-22. Threw that one by him.
So each pitcher has walked the leadoff hitter in this game, gotten burned by a stolen base, and it's come back to haunt him, as those leadoff walks so often do.
Slow breaking ball high, 2-2. When he was recalled from Denver, Nicely was merely hitting .446 with 7 homers and 29 RBIs. And is at .313 with 2 homers and 12 driven home and limited duty so far with the Reds. Last year, he was named the Sporting News Minor League Player of the Year, when at Wichita, he hit .333 with 33 homers and 126 RBIs, and was bitter about being unable to break into the majors. That one's out of play. The problem was that last year, he spent most of the time either as a DH or a first baseman. And Pete Rose said to him in spring training, look, your receiving skills were never outstanding, and now they're rusty. You got to go back to AAA, work on sharpening up your catching skills, and maybe we can get you back here. And he has.
And Billy DeMars has spent some time with him in the batting cages and getting him to hit the ball the opposite way a little bit more. Pitches away, breaking balls, take some shots to right field, help him hit the breaking ball a little bit better instead of trying to pull everything. There's Billy DeMars. Came down from Montreal, spent all those years with the Phillies. He comes out 6-7 hours before every game, and he tosses balls underhand in the cage to guys, off batting tees. Nobody works harder.
The 2-2 pitch. Up and in, and he laid off. Full count. So now Kepshire has gone full on the count to every hitter he's faced.
It's got to be a mental thing with him, Bob, obviously. You can just see by his delivery, he's almost like throwing darts and aiming it, saying, I'm going to try and throw it right there. And not cutting it loose. You aim the ball, you might throw a strike, but it's a very hittable pitch usually.
And Nicely is making him work. Nicely wants to capitalize on this opportunity at age 30. A line drive into right center field. Landrum makes a fine running grab. Tito Landrum.
He is playing on a badly sprained ankle. In fact, Whitey Herzog said before the game when Van Slyke hurt, I don't know if Landrum can go 9 innings for me. He just makes an outstanding catch. Nicely went with the ball. Outside part of the plate, and he makes a great catch. You're looking at double, maybe even triple. They don't lose a whole lot, although when Van Slyke is in the outfield, Herzog has 3 center fielders is what he's got.
This was the scene last night. 2 outs, top of the 8th. Danny Cox working on a perfect game. And Dave Concepcion takes that fastball through the hole. No chance for either Pendleton or Smith. The game's first hit. Oster followed with a single immediately thereafter. And that's all the Reds got. Cox went the distance on the 2-hitter. Pete Rose was complimenting Cox before the game. There's Pete. He says, look, the secret to your success is it's always 0-1. It's always 1-2 with you. You're constantly pitching ahead on the count. Reverse situation with Kepshire, who's now behind Concepcion 2-1, and has gone to 3-2 on the first 5 hitters he's faced today. through the middle, and a Concepcion base hit.
Larry Boa, just a short time ago, broke the all-time National League record, Rabbit Moranville, for games played by a shortstop. And what's Larry, about 39 years old? And Concepcion is just 36, so there's a good chance David plays a couple more years if he stays at shortstop, and that's where Pete Rose has moved him back. He's got a chance to end up with the all-time National League record. Nobody's going to catch Aparicio, though, for the Major League record.
To switch hitter Ron Oster. Well, Concepcion had a lock on that National League Gold Glove for shortstops until Ozzie Smith came along. David won 5 of them. And there's the Wizard.
Now
1-1 the count.
Concepcion at first base going to have a conference with Tommy Helms, get some signals straight. Or ask Helms, hey, what does the book really say on this guy as far as his move? Is there a trigger that I can watch? Is it a knee? Is it the back foot? Is it a shoulder? Something if I get sent or have the green light, what I can look at. Coach's responsibility to know those things in case the players forget.
2-1. Just had a view of this big ballpark. It's 330 down both lines. Billy DeMars in the third base coaching box. 383 into the alleys and 414 to dead center. There goes the runner. A high chopper.
Oh, what a...
Her caught it on the bag and completes the double play.
What a break.
So after an inning and a half, we're tied at 1 in St. Louis.
Kepshire may have gotten a little lucky and had a great defensive play by Landrum, and then on a hit and run, it was a fastball, and they did not feel that Oster would pull the ball, so it was Herr, the second baseman, covering, and they got a break as Herr was standing on the bag and turned the double play. If it's a breaking ball, it might have been Ozzie Smith covering the bag, and you never know what might have happened. Might have been first and third.
A couple of weeks ago in San Diego, Tito Landrum was going to play some golf. He arrived at the country club. He stepped out of the car and stepped upon a stick lying in the parking lot and twisted his ankle. That sidelined him for a while. This is his first start since that injury, although he did play in Atlanta earlier this week and had a home run there.
Browning has such good movement, good arm action on that screwball. Even when he throws it up, as he just did, it still was effective. He had Landrum way out in front. So many more pitching coaches are teaching. Instead of the straight change, the split-fingered fastball gives you a change of speed and a change of direction, 2 dimensions for the hitter to adjust to, and that's what a screwball does also. Jim Cott, about everything a pitcher could do, he did. 1 Gold Gloves and over a dozen.
Base hit for Landrum, a solid knock. Reedus backhands, juggles, and that's all Tito needs. He's at second base.
Probably hit an error. Ball backhands, hits them off the heel of the glove. If he catches the ball cleanly, although it would have been a difficult play, he might have had a chance at Landrum, although this ball club runs on everything. They are very, very aggressive, the Cardinals.
It's ruled a double, no error. The Cardinals took 2 out of 3 earlier this week in Atlanta and didn't steal a base in the process. The Braves watered down the base paths on the natural surface field to try and slow the Cardinal speedsters. Ozzie way out in front, tied him in knots, 0-2.
Whitey Herzog, who managed those Kansas City Royals teams to a couple of divisions, didn't have Dan Quisenberry, which prevented him from getting in World Series.
Well, they won 3 straight years, 76, 7, and 8. All 3 times lost great playoff series to the Yankees. 1-2 to Ozzie.
Ozzie with nobody out, still trying to take a shot to right field. That screwball is not easy to hit out there. Even though it's moving away, tendency is to get out in front and pull it to the left side. There it is again. A little harder screwball that time. He changed speeds on it well. You throw one like Valenzuela, who will have that go away, another time go down. Let's go right now to New York with this report.
All right, in Detroit, the Angels have jumped out in front of the Tigers, top of the second with a man on. Bob Boone hits it over the left field wall. His first home run of the year coming off Dan Petrie. And the Angels lead the Tigers 2-0, now going to the top of the third. Back to St. Louis.
Catcher Tom Nieto now hitting at .259. Without a homer, 10 RBIs. Ball 1 to him. Pitcher Kepshire on deck. Foul ball.
And a chance to see up at the top of your screen on that last shot what speed can do to a defense. Landrum, even with a bad ankle, he's got a little bit of speed, better than average runner, but you see the middle infielder start cheating to the center of the diamond. Concepcion is shortened up, and now any ground ball to the left side, he's going. He's got it.
Landrum is hung up and can't get back.
There used to be a rule against doing what he just did, throwing to an unoccupied base. They have since added an addendum a few years back that you can throw to an unoccupied base like third in this situation if you're making an attempt at a play. So they've changed rules so off and on in subtle fashions.
Inside to Nieto, 2-1. That's a big play for a couple of reasons, potentially. Not only does it take a runner out of scoring position with only one out and possibly kill this rally, but if Browning retires Nieto, then Kepshire leads off the next inning instead of Coleman.
Herzog's philosophy, I'm sure, was the way Browning was taking one look and going home. If he got Landrum at third, Nieto has a chance for the sacrifice fly. Well, it backfired. Many times it's a catcher like Nicely, or even if Pete Rose might yell and, hey, take another look. We're getting into a routine.
Nieto fans, Browning has struck out 3 through 2 innings of work, and we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Top of the third at Busch Stadium in St. Louis, the Cards and the Reds tied at 1 apiece. It'll be Krenchicki, Browning, and then back up to the top for Gary Reedus.
Well, we've put a little bit of an emphasis, as a lot of baseball teams on the turf have, as far as running speed. Bob Costas interviewing Vince Coleman. Reedus may get up this inning, and of course Milner also. They can run for Cincinnati. Scouts sit behind home plate with those stopwatches now. They time runners from home plate to first base, release of the ball from the pitcher to the catcher, catcher's movement to second base. Become a computerized game. See the man with the striped shirt? That's Rich Hacker, a Cardinal scout. He's helped groom some of these. Al Lamacchia, also down there, a Toronto Blue Jays scout. Johnny Lewis back there, too, the hitting instructor, keeping charts right behind home plate. You've got stopwatches, radar guns. We're going to try and do something for you to time some of these speedy hitters down to first base. Possibly on the steal if Coleman or some of the others get on. Give you an idea of how fast they are compared to the average major league times in those areas.
1-1 to Krenchicki. He went around 1-2. He's playing at third base today because Nick Esaski, the regular, injured a groin muscle on Monday against the Cubs and didn't make the trip from Cincinnati this weekend. Change-up hit hard and fair. Extra bases for Krenchicki as Landrum chases it into the corner. At least a double, and that's all.
Pete Rose has fallen in love with Wayne Krenchicki. When he got the ball club last year, Krenchicki was considered a little bit of a fringe ball player. Rose liked the way he played in September this spring, and when Esaski was striking out a lot this spring, although he has started to hit, Krenchicki getting some playing time. Boy, how that ball appears to pick up speed on the turf, huh?
Browning is 0 for 19 this year. You can't count on him to pull it. They look for the sacrifice. Ball 1.
appears that Kempshire doesn't care or can't get the ball inside to left-handed hitters. One situation, when you get that fastball up and in, try and get a pop-up in this situation if you can, and his fastball runs so much away, it's usually outside part of the plate, and he gets in a pattern that way. We'll see Jackie Clark maybe right now. See what happens. Herzog says he's become a very aggressive first baseman.
2-0 pitch. Switch. Fouled it back. Now he squares and takes ball 3. Kempshire is pitching to a guy who is 1 for 26 in his major league career.
Now they can't charge quite as hard at the corners.
He walked it. And he hears about it from the Cardinal fans.
We talked about running speed, and it read us up the average time for a major leaguer going from home plate. That's when the ball hits the bat. Right-hand side to first base, 4.3 seconds. The lefty, 4.2. You can bet that Reedus from the right side is better than the average.
And of course, that average will drop a little bit on artificial surface as opposed to natural grass.
Yeah, they say about 10% more efficiency running. Steals out of the box on turf rather than dirt and grass. Still going to have to be tight at the corners. Although I don't know if Rose will have him bunny, because he isn't the kind of guy that hits in the double plays.
Reedus walked, stole a base, and scored on a wild pickoff throw in the first. Ball 1 outside and low.
Here comes Mike Rourke now, the pitching coach. Have a talk with Kempshire, a man most of you know as being Bruce Suter's guru. He went back home and got out of baseball. Mike Rourke, and when the insurance business, Suter would call him. Cardinals brought him back. Suter, of course, has gone out to Atlanta. Terrific on mechanics and pitch selection.
Rourke and Herzog were teammates with the Tigers in the early 60s. And you played against both of them, right?
Yep.
Ken Daly in the bullpen.
He's pitched well.
2-0 the count to Reedus.
Boy, they've tried to tell Kempshire everything. Just throw the ball harder. Don't let anything bother you. And the more they tell him, the deeper he digs a hole for himself. It's become a mental thing.
Willie McGee in center field. Franschicki tags, but isn't going.
You're talking about a guy in center field, Willie McGee, who is on the verge of superstardom. I don't think he'll ever hit a whole lot of home runs. He could hit 15 or so if he was another park. He did more. You talk about his running.
Center field,
getting more selective at the plate. His throwing arm, which we just saw. Clark and her doing what they're doing.
Say, he's gotten stronger, Willie McGee has, since he first came up, and especially from the right side. If you make a mistake, he'll knock it out of here on you. He hit about a 430-footer to left center field a week and a half ago against Atlanta. Milner swings on the first one, and it goes through for a base hit. Landrum's throw to the plate, not in time, and it's 2-1 Cincinnati as Franschicki scores. RBI single for Milner.
Once again, a walk. Thrown in the middle of this thing, and this inning's still not over.
first baseman, Pete Rose.
Rose was 0 for 4 last night. Grounded to Clark in the first inning today. The number remains at 59. When we first came on the air, we showed you tape of Pete hitting a homer at Wrigley Field off Scott Sanderson earlier this season. The first home run he'd hit since September of 1982. 1-1. And, you know, he said to the writers afterwards, if I'm supposed to be so statistics-minded, how come I can't recall the circumstances on my last home run? And somebody reminded him, you hit it off Don Robinson. He said, oh, yeah, now I remember. It was a 3-0 pitch, change up, hit it down the right field line. Against the Pirates in September of '82. 2-1.
The late Charlie Lau had so many different absolutes and hitting theories. He got some of them from watching Aaron, some of the other great hitters. He got a few of them from watching Pete Rose. Rose touches that bat to his shoulder to keep his bat back, doesn't lunge. Also, Rose following the ball to the catcher's glove when he takes a pitch.
Goes to the opposite field. Coleman will be there. That's the second out.
You could see Rose trying to get under the ball, and he almost uppercutted it to try and stay out of a double play. He wanted to get the ball in the air, and he really took a severe uppercut.
Now Dave Parker strides to the plate. He struck out to end the first inning.
Now, one of the reasons when you think of how smart Pete Rose is and how his head is always in the ball game, he's got this guy up hitting cleanup. He wants to get him up at the plate. I'm not saying Rose wanted to make an out, but the one thing in his mind was, I do not want to hit into a double play. Not with 2 men on, with my cleanup man who's pretty hot up.
Into left field, but Coleman almost in his tracks will make the catch. The Reds settle for 1 on the RBI single by Milner and take a 2-1 lead after 2.5 in St. Louis. So, Sports World, after baseball, Marvin Purdy with the fight, and then the World Finals of Drag Racing. I have never been to a drag racing event, but I do remember all those commercials on rock and roll radio through the years, touting those names: Roger Color Me Gone, Linda Mood, TV Tommy Ibo, Big Daddy Don Garlitz, Shirley Cha-Cha Muldowney. They'll all be there, undoubtedly. Strike 1 to Kepshire.
You obviously don't have time for drag racing because you're following Sergeant Slaughter and Hulk Hogan and
right.
You claw around. You don't have time for all this in your social life.
All real men like wrestling, Tony.
I didn't say I didn't.
The 0-2 pitch.
As a kid, I was a fan of the Southside Armory, south side of Milwaukee. The Swedish Angel, Vern Gagne. You name it. I saw him.
And Kepshire rolls it through the middle. Did you see that swing?
With a wave.
Now, last week in Kansas City, I'm telling you about this inside the park homer Coleman hit against Atlanta. Watch where he is after the ball hits off the wall. Now, Claudell Washington gets a little bit too close to the wall, and it bounces back past him. It rolls away. Now, here's Coleman.
Yeah, the ball was bounced. You said that he was on second base when the ball hit the wall last week.
Oh, a little poetic
the ball
license.
hit the wall. It was running.
I told you he was across the plate before Hubbard caught the relay. That part was true.
He is still learning how to bunt. Drag the ball from the left side, push the ball.
Keep in mind, he's stolen those 32 bases to lead the majors without playing in the Cardinals' first 9 games. He began the year at Louisville. 1-1.
Let's see if we can get a time on him on any ground ball that he might chop. There's a chance we might have a clock and get you a time from home to first. As we talked before, for a right-handed hitter, average time is 4 3/10 of a second. Alamakia, the former St. Louis Brown pitcher, Toronto scout, vice president, operates that clock and cross-checks. That's what those average times look like. Maybe we can get a time if a ground ball is hit. Get an indicator. The man in the Bantam Ben golf hat is Al Lamakia. He's got the stopwatch. Rich Hacker's got a couple of cards that might show us some time.
When Coleman strikes out and deprives us of the pleasure at this point.
Yeah, but we got another guy coming up that we can do the same thing with, because I think you might find that McGee, once he gets into full stride,
Center fielder, Willie McGee.
might even run faster than Coleman. So we'll try it again.
Browning has struck out 4 now. Kepshire at first with 1 out. Ball 1. At their present pace, the Cardinals would steal 338 bases this year. The all-time record is 347 by the 1911 Giants. 1-1.
Screwball.
Taps it back to the mound. The play is at second for the force. And we don't get an adequate timing there because Willie was not challenged. He knew the force was all they could get, and he trotted down to first.
Well, we're going to get a time. Remember, the average time for right-hand hitters, 4.3. It looked like a double play when it hit Browning's glove. That is an unofficial time. That is the time that Rich Hacker and Alamaki got, 3.8, and he let up the last 8 or 10 strides. What would it have been if he had run full speed?
I thought it was interesting. The Russian scout said it took 9 seconds. Her fly to center his first trip.
That speed, what it does, you could see Browning knew who was running, and he unloaded the ball much more quickly than he maybe had to. And threw another sinker ball to Concepcion. Didn't get enough on it because he didn't have a good grip on the ball. So Willie McGee's speed keeps this inning alive for the 3-hitter.
And put some pressure on Browning and nicely. Willie has stolen 19 and been caught just 3 times. Not going. And Tommy falls back away, 1-1.
Browning rushed his delivery in the event that Willie McGee was going.
You know, I mentioned the 1911 Giants. The game was so much different then, and it was a 154-game season when they stole 347. Perhaps the better comparison would be Chuck Tanner's Oakland A's of 1976. They stole better than 340. Close to the all-time mark. Willie is going, swing and a miss, and he is in there.
Well, let's see if we can get a time on this. Some numbers for you. The average release time from the first move a pitcher makes till hits the catcher's glove is about 1.4, 1.5 seconds. If the ball hits the catcher's glove till it hits the shortstop or second baseman covering, say it's around 1.82 seconds. The combined time of the average is about 3.5 seconds. You get guys like Coleman and Henderson and McGee get down to 3.2 and Raines. You almost can't throw them out on an artificial surface. Starting to outrun that baseball.
2-2 to her. A base hit here would tie the game, perhaps, and tie her with teammate Jack Clark for the league lead in RBIs again.
Her has become so much stronger, hasn't he? When he had the knee surgery, and he's had that several times, he did so much upper body weight and strengthening that he hits the ball very hard now.
Oster had him played perfectly on that one, and that takes care of the Cardinals in the 3rd. No runs, a hit, and a man is left after 3. 2-1 Cincinnati. We go to the 4th. The Reds will send up nicely Concepcion and Oster, and to call the next 2 innings, Tony Kubek.
All right, Kurt Kepshire trying to get his feet on the ground. He's trailing by a run. Nieto immediately is going to go out and have a little conference with him. He struggled with his control. He walked Reedus in the 1st inning. Reedus stole second base on a pickoff attempt. The ball went to center field. Reedus came home to score. That was run number 1. Browning walked Coleman leading off the 1st. He stole second. With first base open and 2 outs, Jackie Clark got an RBI. It was 1-1. Then in the 3rd, Franchicki doubled in the right field corner. Browning, the pitcher, walked. Runners on 1st and 2nd. Milner singled him home, and that's your score. Nicely lined out, an outstanding play by Landrum. He jumps on Kepshire's first pitch, so he's on first base.
That's twice he's hit the ball hard. You can understand his frustration, Tony. Started out in the Houston organization, couldn't break in there. Ashby pretty much had it. Then he platooned for a while with Pujols. Comes over to Cincinnati and takes a look at guys like Bill Ardello, and before that Trevino and Van Gorder really not putting great numbers on the board. And you look at what he did in the minor leagues and can't quite make it to the big time. The frustration was building until Pete Rose gave him a call this year on May 15th and brought him back from Denver.
Pete Rose, who manages like he plays, very aggressively. Let's see if he starts a runner. Nicely, obviously would not be a steal situation, but hit and run. Possibly, especially now with Kepshire behind in the count again. Cincinnati, the month of September and the second-best record in the National League under Pete Rose. Pitch is close, but it goes 2 balls, no strikes, says home plate umpire Jerry Davis. Kepshire has pitched from behind and almost every single Reds hitter. A lot of 3-2 counts. 3-0 to Dave Concepcion. You can hear some of the fans in the background hooting at Kepshire to just throw strikes. He's trying to, folks. 3 balls, 1 strike. Good pitch to run on now. Concepcion down to Billy DeMars. There's your defensive alignment. I think you'd have to go back maybe 25 years, and this is arguable, to find a defense as good as this one. Early 60 Yankees. I mean, all around, outfield and infield. Left center field. Willie McGee's going to have to go. Will he outrun it? Off the wall. Here comes nicely Billy DeMars with nobody out, holds him at third. Concepcion 2 for 2, a double. Bounces off the wall.
And this is what happens with Kepshire, who already has thrown 58 pitches and has been pitching from behind, as Tony says. He has to come in with a fat one right down the chute, and Concepcion jumps on it. It was a 3-1 pitch. So if you're not walking, guys, you're pitching from behind, 3-1, 2-0, and you get burned.
You know, it's interesting. Pitching coach like Dave Duncan with the White Sox has done studies that on first pitch strikes, hitters hit about 180. There's a side that isn't told about that, though, and I think Kepshire tried to do it. Nieto had the camera. He said, let's get ahead of this guy. Threw a ball right down the middle. It was a base hit up the middle. Infield is now in. On the left side, Tommy Herr on the artificial surface with Oster batting from the left side is about halfway. That's your defensive alignment. With nicely at third, Concepcion at second. Cincinnati leads it 2-1. We're to the top of the fourth, nobody out. A very bouncy artificial surface. It's AstroTurf drained through 8. Sometimes balls in the second hop can get over your head. A ball and a strike to Ron Oster. Oster, who's had a little trouble with his left shoulder. He jammed it diving for a ball, missed a bunch of games. Should be at least one. Right center field, Willie McGee nicely will tag Asbel Concepcion. McGee's throw nicely scores, makes it 3-1. Concepcion goes to third. There's just 1 out. Sacrifice fly, no at bat, RBI for Oster.
Now an interesting situation arises with Krenchicki coming up and Browning, the on-deck hitter. They could walk him intentionally outright or just work around him.
Infield stays in. Krenchicki doubled into third and came on to score. RBI Milner. Fouled out of play. From St. Louis, Bob Costas, statistician Steve Horn, Tony Kubek. Hope you're enjoying the ball game. One ball, 1 strike. Billy DeMars watching Dave Concepcion getting a little walking lead as Kepshire has decided to go with the full windup. Herr, will he come home? He does. Nieto blocks him off. He got it. Nice play by Herr, and Tom Nieto planted that left foot right at the corner of the plate and blocked Concepcion off the plate.
Even though they got him, Tony, this is a good play on Concepcion's part to come to the plate. They had to make the perfect play to get him, and then barely so, and the pitcher is the next hitter. So if he had held with 2 outs and the pitcher coming up, the percentages are much less than trying to score on this play. The Cardinals cut him down on Herr's good play and Nieto's fine tag and block of the plate.
With 1 out, most major league teams have what they call the contact play. Infield in. If you got any kind of speed at third, as soon as that bat hits the ball, you're often going to try and force a bad throw. Nice play on both ends. Herr on the bouncy turf and Nieto. Two balls, no strikes. Tom Browning, the pitcher. Browning walked in the third. Ball 3. Whitey Herzog has his bullpen going again.
He may have his ulcer going again if Kepshire keeps this up.
Whitey Herzog keeps his own defensive charts. One of the few managers who do. He feels he's in the ball game more. Browning on 4 pitches walks and moves Krenchicki to second.
Daly gets up again. He's pitched well of late for the Cardinals. Earlier this season, he had his troubles. After one outing, Herzog said he was pitching so badly, I had to get all the married men off the field.
Now, they sent him back last year after he had a rough outing. After outing up here when he was gotten from Atlanta, they tried to tighten up his curveball. A little bit too rolling. Third base on ball given up by Kepshire. Now it's Reedus. Walked, stole a base, and scored on a throwing error by Kepshire. A pickoff attempt. Ball 1.
That Kepshire throwing error made that, of course, an unearned run. The Cardinals led the National League in fielding a year ago, but this year, uncharacteristically, they've allowed 37 unearned runs already, one of the highest figures in the league. The Dodgers have allowed the most at 45. But the Dodgers knew they had defensive problems coming into the season. Defense has always been a Cardinal forte.
The man in scoring position, Reedus, 1 ball, no strike, just stood there. Wasn't even going to swing. Now it's 1-1 with 2 outs. It's right through a fastball. That's one of the crisper fastballs that Kepshire's thrown in this ball game. He's ahead. 1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Sometimes, and this is the Johnny Sain theory, and also Jim Cott, you shorten up your delivery from the stretch, you quicken your stride, and the arm speed increases, and your fastball gets better. It worked for Jim Cott. Breaking ball, chop. Tough play for Ozzie to second base. He got him. The Wizard of Oz makes an outstanding play. Unfortunately, he had a pitcher, Browning, running, made it a little bit easier, but it's still a good play. Middle of the 4th here in St. Louis. Cincinnati 3, St. Louis 1. We're going to the bottom of the 4th here in St. Louis with Cincinnati leading 3-1. Bob Costas, Tony Kubek, and you've spent a lot of time, married a St. Louis gal, used to teach here, Randy. They talk about America's team, Atlanta, and the Cubs caught on last year, but the tradition of this ball club, the old gas house game, it's a wedding or something we're going through here. It's snowing in St. Louis. But, you know, the great nicknames of Busy and Daffy and Ducky, Gas House Gang, Country Slaughter, go in the Hall of Fame finally.
Our executive producer, Mike Weissman, throwing popcorn kernels at us while we were on camera. Jack Clark rolls to Oster for the first out.
Browning got the screwball down that time. Jack Clark might have been looking fastball, and he got that ball right off the end of the bat. But it's a marvelous tradition, and I think this team, as much as any other, has a background, a tradition that really none can match it.
Oh, yeah, they rank with the Yankees, the Dodgers, Red Sox, the 2 Chicago clubs. Great traditions in Major League history. As a matter of fact, a movie was just released entitled The St. Louis Cardinals, a full feature-length movie, not a highlight film, a 90-minute movie about the history of this ball club. Produced by a friend of ours here in St. Louis, Larry Miller, and they're selling it on home cassettes. It's a big item.
Foul back. Nicely back to the screen. Browning has got out number 2, and quite easily. So Pendleton goes down. We'll bring up Tito Landrum, who doubled and was caught stealing in the 2nd inning.
Right fielder, Tito Landrum.
We're in the bottom of the 4th with 2 down. Cincinnati Reds lead it 3-1 over the St. Louis Cardinals. Landrum, of course, who had that dramatic home run off Britt Burns. The 10th inning, pitch number 150. Landrum was a member of the Baltimore Orioles. Helped win the American League pennant.
In fact, that was the deciding run in Game 4 as the Orioles took the White Sox 3-1. You and I did that game, and we would have bet anything. Nobody would have hit one out of Comiskey Park that day. The wind blowing in, several balls had been crushed and barely made the warning track that day. But Tito really tied into one and drilled it right down the line in left field. Home run that won the ball game. It was a 0-0 duel into the 10th.
Landrum had Browning in the hole, 2-0, and fouled a fastball back. So it's 2 balls, 1 strike. Screwball, foul back again. It'll go 2-2 with 2 down. All of a sudden, White Sox Park, or Comiskey Park, has become an outstanding home run park. Last year, 180 home runs, more than any other park in baseball since they moved home plate out towards center field, shortened the dimensions. That ball is flying. Hutch Fisk, 4 home runs in the last 3 ball games. Kittle's starting it. He had a couple of home runs the other night.
Well, they beat Kansas City last night 8-3. Kittle, Salazar, Hewlett, and Fisk all homered for Tony La Russa's White Sox.
3 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. He got him right on the outside edge. Landrum doesn't say a word. So, strikeout number 5, 3 up, 3 down inning for Browning after 4. Cincinnati 3, St. Louis 1. We'll be back after these messages from the local station. We go to the 5th. Kurt Kepshire has had runners on in every inning. He's managed to wriggle out of it. Our thanks to Jim Toomey, the PR director here, and some of the other executives. The Cardinals.
I noticed they have the proper billing there, too. It's the way the marquee should read.
The Greek on top of the pole.
A little humor there, Tony.
Kepshire's going to have to hurry. Clark takes it himself, and what a play he made. Kepshire was not going to get over in time for Milner. On a drag bunt, he got out of the box in a hurry. Kepshire, so intent on just trying to throw strikes, he almost had a lap, didn't get over. And the ball was close enough to the line that Clark could make the play himself. Good call by Harry Wendelstedt, the first base umpire. Now it's Pete Rose. A ground out and a fly out to left field. A strike.
So many comparisons, most of them statistical, between Rose and Cobb. Certainly they share that quality of aggressiveness, but in a different way. Rose gets along with everybody. His teammates, players on other teams, very affable. And we all know what a gruff and sometimes mean-spirited character Cobb could be.
1 ball, 1 strike to Pete. Fouled out of play. Cincinnati leads it 3-1.
Great sports writer of years gone by, Bugs Bear, once said of Ty Cobb, he'd climb a mountain to take a punch at an echo. But that .367 batting average echoes throughout baseball history, and 12 batting titles.
Could be trouble by Pendleton. Will Rose try for 2? Coleman can throw. Boy, he got over in a hurry. You talking about speed, not only on the bases, but on this quick turf. He got over in the foul territory on Rose's ball that had double written all over it. And you just saw how speed pays off defensively. Watch Coleman. He's a good thrower. Throws from right near the pen.
Right fielder, Dave Parker.
The Cardinals have the quality you need defensively in a big ballpark with an AstroTurf surface. Great outfield speed. Coleman in left, McGee in center, Landrum in right, and when Van Slyke is in there, they may be even a little bit better. Van Slyke is an excellent outfielder.
Parker popping the first pitch up left side. Pendleton. So there are 2 out. Rose still on first. Right now, let's go to New York for this update.
All right, Tony, top of the 4th in Detroit. The Angels are threatening to make it a runaway against the Tigers. Gary Pettis with his first home run of the year. A 3-run home run to the opposite field. Dan Petrie going for his 9th win is out. And the Tigers trail 6-0 now in the 5th.
All right, Phil, thanks. Allen nicely now with Rose down on first base. Kepchire trying to have an easy inning. If this stays playable, he will. It's going to go back to the seats of Rose. A strike on nicely. He's lined out. An outstanding play by Landrum that may have helped keep Kepshire in the ball game this long. Nicely singled up the middle on the first pitch to lead off the 4th. Came home to score. Talked so much about the outfield, and we're not overlooking Pendleton's work at 3rd and those 2 guys in the middle of the diamond. Now that Herr's knee is sound again. Foul out of play. Along with Ozzie Smith. Earlier, Jack Clark not exactly a slouch down at first base. In fact, Whitey Herzog went to him in the spring of the year and said, look, I got a problem. Van Slyke, I got to get his bat. He's better in the outfield. Would you mind? Rose is going. Rose had a good jump. Look at Ozzie. On the run from the first base side of second. And the Wizard of Oz, that's AHS, throws out nicely. So we'll go to the bottom of the fifth. 3-1, Cincinnati.
Remember the statesman of a bygone era who urged Congress, millions for defense. Well, the Cardinals took that advice, shelled out a couple million a year for Ozzie Smith, mostly for his defense. He came in today hitting .260, and he leads off in the last half of the fifth.
Ozzie struck out in the second off Tom Browning. Cincinnati Reds lead it 3-1 over the Cardinals. On the bottom of the fifth. 2 balls, no strikes to Ozzie Smith. That play that Ozzie made was made a little more difficult. With Pete Rose running, he didn't have the easy force at second base. Rose up tight at first base. Smith fouls it right back at Bob Costas. 2 balls and a strike.
Always good to see. Well, the camera left him, moves over to Whitey Herzog, and it's genuinely good to see him. Notice in the background, there he is, one of the great ballpark luminaries, Tony, Fred Bird, the Redbird. No traditionalist likes to visit a ballpark without seeing Fred.
Sit down, you dumb bird. Smith's got a base hit. And a 2-2 pitch from Browning, so he's on with Nieto up. You know, one of the more of the pluses when you get a Vince Coleman, Nick Leyva, the first base coach, you got a little speed. The infield plays a little more shallow, as Kranchicki is, and on the turf, the ball scoots by. But one of the benefits of a Vince Coleman having that extra phenomenal base stealer is that Ozzie Smith won't have to run quite as much. That's always been a problem for Whitey Herzog. Later on in the season, Smith, who's not exceptionally strong, foul strike, gets worn down as the season progresses. But now he can back off and only steal when it's absolutely necessary. And it may save him down the line for his defensive prowess. Nieto struck out in the second. Browning has 5. A ball and a strike.
Now, one thing we have to say, in fairness to Fred Bird, little kids like him. They're posing for pictures with him down there. It's a nice little scene.
Browning asking nicely. He was questioning the count as we look at Ozzie Smith down at first. Goes 1 ball and 1 strike. He may have tried a quick pitch, so Nieto steps out. There goes Smith. False start. Browning unloaded. Ozzie Smith turned back. Ozzie Smith doesn't have the blazing speed of a Coleman or a McGee or a Reedus or a Milner, but he uses his head a little bit better than some of them and works the count, tries to pick a breaking ball, tries to pick the pitcher's move. He's holding again, foul out of play. Tom Browning and the Reds have a 3-1 lead. Ozzie Smith on first, nobody out. Browning has already showed that stepping off the rubber move and quick move to first base. While Nieto goes back to get another bat, he obviously cracked that one or it checked on the barrel. To remind you, this telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. If you look at some scores, the Angels leading over Detroit 7-0 in the 5th. Cleveland 2, Toronto 1. Toronto's on a tear. They've got a 4-game lead in the East. That game in the 4th.
Interesting thing, Toronto is playing .667 baseball right now at 30-20, but that's just about the kind of ball they were playing at this time a year ago. and yet they were well behind the Tigers, who got off to that incredible start. Now they're 4 in front of Baltimore, 4.5 up on Detroit.
They're about 6 games out right now. Smith is going. Fouled off by Nieto.
California, the leader in the American League West, 1 up on Kansas City, 2.5 in front of the White Sox.
So even though the Cardinals are losing by 2 with that dominant base-running game, Herzog's going to send them. Try instead of a double play. Nieto hits the ball hard, doesn't rip well. Also, if he swings through a ball, you got a runner in scoring position if Ozzie makes it. What is the difference in lead? Just 1 foot on the turf as compared to Coleman. Tried to go in the gap to right field. He fouled off a good pitch. He stay at a ball and 2 strikes to Nieto. Browning and Nicely taking a little more time now. Usually he pitches quickly. A big breaking ball, the first one I can recall him throwing today, like a slurve. Pitch that Jim Cott teaches also. Learned it from Johnny Sain, the pitching coach now of the Atlanta Braves. Sain was his coach with the White Sox. Dave Concepcion does not like these guys coming in to break up a double play. Matlock Rose, Lonnie Smith. He's got Ozzie on first base now. He's going. Could be trouble. No, Milner. It's a nice jump. Will he go to first? He does. Smith is going to have to hurry. It's going to be close. Double play. Ozzie may have been decoyed by Ron Oster and Concepcion. He was off and running. They decoyed him. Tried to make it look like the ball was either in a gap or the ball was a ground ball. And it gave Milner a chance to throw behind him and double him up. He tried to get hit by the ball in the back when he saw he was dead. Strong throw on the turf by Eddie Milner.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Milner didn't help out on that decoy, because he laid back on that ball as if it might fall in front of him and then made a last-second lunge to glove it when he actually could have caught it in his stride very easily.
I think what happened, Nieto hit the ball so hard it kind of knuckled out there, and he was battling the knuckleball rather than trying to decoy anybody. You get that good to be an outfielder, you're really something. Kurt Kepshire. A little ground ball single off a breaking ball up the middle to get on base to lead off the third. Fouled off. Ball and 2 strikes with 2 down. Cincinnati Reds lead it 3-1. At the bottom of the 5th. Browning has struck out 5. He walked the leadoff hitter. It cost him as Coleman came home after a stolen base. Only walk he's had in this ball game. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Kurt Kepshire. Got him on a curveball. So, Smith getting doubled off on Nieto's line drive after 5. Your score, Cincinnati 3, St. Louis 1.
Some figures on Kepshire through 5 innings of work. He's thrown a lot of pitches, and he's pitched behind on the count. It isn't the walks themselves, it's the danger of throwing the fat ones when you're constantly behind 2-0 and 3-1.
And he's been able to pitch out of some trouble with a lot of help from his friends. And I look over my lineup card, and I see back in the 2nd, good catch. In fact, outstanding by Landrum on Nicely. Concepcion single right after that. Herr was covering a hit and run, turned the double play, a little bit of luck. Good play by Coleman, holding Rose to a single, looked like a double. Outstanding play Nicely by Ozzie Smith. So you get 27 outs, and sometimes when you play the Cardinals with this defense, they give you less than that because they make plays they're not supposed to.
Kepshire has walked 3 and struck out 1. He's allowed the Reds 6 hits, and Concepcion has 2 of them, a single in the 2nd and a double in the 4th. 2-0.
Thinking of the great Baltimore infields. They had Brooks Robinson, Belanger, Grich, and Boog at first. In outfield, and Lumberry in center field could catch the ball and run it down. And I don't think their all-round defense is as good as this one. There's Rick Dempsey behind the plate. They may have had an edge there. Billy DeMars.
3-0 pitch. On 4 pitches, he passes Concepcion to open the 6th.
keep in mind, this Cardinal defense is without Keith Hernandez the past couple of years. You put his Gold Glove down there at first, it'd be that much better. As we pause for station identification on the NBC television network.
This is WOC-TV.
The fans applaud Herzog's appearance, not so much to show their approval of Whitey as their disapproval of Kepshire. They think Herzog might be prepared to make a move, and he is. Daly is coming in. Kepshire is gone here. The Reds lead at 3-1, and we'll be right back. After Suter left and Neil Allen failed to come through in the season's first 6 weeks or so, Whitey Herzog went to a bullpen by committee, and it's worked thus far. Ken Daly, Ricky Horton from the left side, Bill Campbell of late from the right side, and he's been spotting Allen occasionally. Neil threw a couple of good innings in Atlanta a few days ago.
Well, the saves certainly are spread out. Allen with 2, Campbell with 2. He gave him a good, strong 4 innings the other day, picking up Andujar. That might be a problem as we look at this graphic trying to fill Suter's shoes, which is impossible for any one human being to do. But Andujar now with some shoulder problems. They're a little bit concerned about him.
Joaquin is 9-1, but he had to be taken out after 5 innings in Atlanta the other night. Might miss a turn. Oster jumps on Daly's first pitch and sends it into the left field corner for extra bases. Concepcion will be stopped by DeMars at third, and it's a double for Oster.
One of the biggest things that Mike Rourke, the pitching coach, has had to do with Ken Daly, who throws his first pitch, cut fastball inside corner for a double, is to get him to take the stuff he has in the bullpen out to the mound during the game. And Mike Rourke and Herzog will say, boy, you get him in the bullpen, you put the gun on him, and he's throwing bullets, and the curve is sharp, and he goes out in the mound. Sometimes he loses it. Maybe he overthrows. They can't pinpoint it.
The infield comes in, and Krenchicki takes a strike. He's doubled and hit into a fielder's choice in a similar situation when he grounded to her in the 4th inning. And Tommy threw the runner out at the plate. Change swung on and missed. Daly needs the strikeout, and he has Krenchicki in an 0-2 hole with the pitcher Browning on deck. Krenchicki lofts it into center field, and that should get the run home. McGee makes the catch. Concepcion heads for the plate. They go in behind the runner at second and get him. Oster got a little too cute for his own good because he had no intention of going to third. He was trying to draw the throw, and he wandered too far off, and the Cardinals alertly got him.
You can take all the speed in the world if you get teams that don't execute and be in the proper cutoff position as Ozzie Smith is. I don't care how much speed you've got. It was a very close play with that cloud of dust. Second base umpire Terry Tada with the inside position. Sees the snap tag. Boy, was that execution. Ozzie Smith did a little decoying, something shortstops will do. He laid back a little bit, and then he went out to meet the throw to cut down the steps between McGee's throw and himself. Got to the ball more quickly than Oster thought he would.
And then that little backhand flip. So you credit Krenchicki with a sacrifice fly to make it 4-1, and then to score the play 8-6-4 on the double play. To Browning. 2-1.
It's one of those unusual ones where even though it is a double play, you still get the RBI. McGee's improved almost every department. He spent about 4 or 5 years in the Yankee chain. He was a raw talent coming to the Cardinals. His throwing's better. It's a better jump. Gold Glove outfielder now.
Full count. Some young players on a ball like that might have tried to show off their arm, a useless throw to the plate where there's no chance.
Or overthrow the cutoff man and try and throw it all the way to third on the fly. He did. It was all right. So did Ozzie.
And Browning bloops one over Pendleton's head for a hit. He's around first as Coleman fields it, and he'll stay right there.
My goodness, do we have an argument against the DH here today? Browning with 2 walks, a single, Kepshire with a single. Pitchers have been on base 4 to 5 times.
You know I'm anti-DH, but I'll offer the pro-DH argument. That is precisely the second hit of Tom Browning's career.
But look at his on-base percentage. He's got 2 walks today also.
Reedus is the hitter.
Now, Whitey Herzog is pro DH. He said these guys aren't hitting the minor leagues. In amateur baseball, they get up here, they usually foul off 2 bunt attempts and go sit down.
The count to Reedus. We're in the top of the 6th. The Reds with single runs in the 1st, 3rd, 4th, and here in this inning. Lead it 4-1. The Cardinals got 1 in the last half of the 1st. Fastball for a strike.
He gets the ball up there in the high 80s, but the inconsistency with the fastball and the curve gets him in trouble. Bob Gibson had him, the Hall of Famer who's here in the ballpark today, does some broadcasting, Cardinal Network. He tried to work with him, get him more consistent with the fastball. Some say that Daly's fastball doesn't have enough movement on it. And adjust his fingers on the seam, different subtle finger pressures to try and get movement.
Gibson worked with him in Atlanta. Daly was dealt by the Braves to the Cardinals in exchange for Ken Obergefell. And I see Obi's name popping up in new trade rumors. He can't get enough playing time behind Bob Horner.
You know, with the threat, and that's all it is at this point, of a strike, looking baseball in the face, I think, and salaries too, and no trade, no cut clause contract, a lot of trading rumors, and that's all they are. They've been kind of deadened. People are afraid with the possibility of a strike. They're laying back.
Well, the simple fact is, whether you're pro player or pro management or somewhere in between, the fact is that some players with very large contracts simply cannot be traded. Hit hard by Reedus. Ozzie on the short hop. He gets the force. If they told you had to leave the ballpark right now, you might not be pleased, but you've gotten your money's worth watching Ozzie.
When you look at the Cincinnati 6, you see a leadoff walk, a double, a sacrifice fly, and a single. You say, how in the world could they come up with only 1 run? We're going to show you. That's what happens right there. Sacrifice fly. McGee to Ozzie Smith. They throw behind. They get a double play on Krenchicki's ball when they doubled off Oster. And then, to end the inning, we go from a bunch of good plays to a great play. Ozzie Smith, the acrobat. Baseball's greatest showman since Willie Mays. And he's got a lot more chances at short than Willie had in center field. Wow.
There are great ball players who are effective in terms of helping their teams win. And then there are those who go a little bit beyond that and into artistry. You watch a Dr. J play basketball. You watch an Ozzie Smith play shortstop. Their performance transcends what happens on the scoreboard.
That's right. And last year at this in Randy Huntley's fantasy camp, you got that triple off Bob Gibson, and that was another one you could add to that pot of great moments in Cardinal history. Got a clock on Vince Coleman. See how he gets down to first if he makes contact.
Glad they didn't have a clock on me going from home to third on that triple. Strike 1 to Coleman. Swing and a miss, strike 2. Bottom of the 6th, 4-1 Reds. McGee and Herr will follow Coleman. There's Willie. One and two.
You know, Coleman was a great college athlete, a great punter. A punt run back for a touchdown or a kickoff. Of course, he outran the ball carrier, what he did.
Hot foul on that play.
When Coleman was drafted by the Washington Redskins, after they saw his performance, All-Star game, they tried to make him a wide receiver. He caught 2 passes in the college all-star game. He said, no, I'm smarter than that. I want to be a punter, and I'll do that to her. I'm not going to be a wide receiver.
The lights have been on the past few innings at Busch Stadium, and now it's starting to drizzle just a little bit. Browning's 2-2 pitch. Popped up, looks playable. It'll stay in fair ground. No, drifts into foul territory, and Concepcion makes the catch in behind Krenchicki. One out in the last half of the 6th.
Center fielder, Willie McGee.
Browning has settled in, hasn't he? He's done a nice job.
Fouled off by Willie McGee. Browning has allowed the Cardinals only 4 hits and 1 run.
He's thrown in enough screwballs to keep him honest, and when they look for that, he's got the fastball by him, mixed in a couple of slurves. He's a tough kid. They call him Bulldog. Remember, they called Jim Bouton that also. A little bit of resemblance as far as build, except Bouton, of course, is right-handed. So he gets a little mad. Swings off him.
Ground ball to short. Concepcion knows he can waste no time, and he throws Willie McGee out.
He went over to the 2,000 hit mark just a while ago, and you look back at some of that old Big Red machine. You have 8 guys that before their careers are over will have 2,000 or more hits. And I'm sure you could name them. You start with Bench and go around the horn. Perez and Dreesen, you got to figure on that. He'll probably get it before his career's over. Geronimo didn't, and won't.
Ball 1 to Herb. You know, it's interesting. Cedeno and Concepcion each passed 2,000 hits lifetime this season. And you're not talking about slouches there. Concepcion and Cedeno. Base hit for her. It's right on the line. It'll be a double for the league's leading hitter.
In '82, the Cardinals pennant year, and I can still recall Mike Shannon, the Cardinal broadcaster's former Cardinal third baseman, tell me that the last 6 weeks of that pennant season, that no player played better or got more big hits in the Cardinals' rush to the pennant than Tommy Herr. Knee problems hurt him. Now the knee is strengthened. He's gotten bigger upstairs physically. Of course, with base runners on in front of him, behind him, that doesn't hurt him. But he's still got to get the hits.
Here's Jack Clark with a chance to put the Cardinals back in it. Ball 1, just to complete the thought. It's amazing to consider. Concepcion and Cedeno, guys who have been all-stars. You put their career hit totals together. It's less than Pete Rose.
Concepcion at short is playing a short left field. Going to knock anything down, prevent the run. It'll give you an indication of how hard Jack Clark hits the ball.
The 1-1. Line drive, base hit. Kerr will come home. Milner juggles it. It's academic. Clark will hold it first. It's a 4-2 ball game. And Clark has driven home both St. Louis runs. He's 2 for 3 on the afternoon. And he ups his league-leading RBI total to 41.
We emphasize about the Cardinals. Look at this mash coming right at you. He doesn't just hit mistakes, Jack Clark. He hits good pitches when he's looking for them. He can turn anybody's fastball around. You're looking at team batting average. Cardinals have 3 in the top 10. Herr, McGee, Van Slyke. Runs batted in. They've got 20. Clark, Herr, and don't forget Pendleton, who's got 28. You look at the offensive stats in the National League. There's Tommy Hume begins to throw. Trying to recover from that knee surgery a couple of years ago. Throwing better now, though.
1-0 to Pendleton. Allowed foul.
Herzog made an interesting observation. In fact, he said he was talking to Sparky Anderson this spring when they were playing on those bumpy dirt fields in Florida. And Sparky said, boy, Whitey, he said, I feel sorry for him. You're really going to have trouble scoring runs with this team. And Whitey said, wait a second. He said, don't judge our team here on dirt and grass. We're not going to run down here and get anybody hurt. Once the season goes, with Clark, who can end the ball game with one swing of the bat late, and all the rabbits and her and everybody else, he said, we're going to score a lot of runs. And they are. They're leading the league.
Clark gives them more of a power presence than they've had in recent years, but still, they're not going to be anywhere near the league leaders as a team in home runs. But right now, they lead the league in team batting average and runs scored.
They're going to get a lot of doubles and triples, too.
Pendleton went fishing.
Like you walk one of these guys or he gets a single, and they're automatic doubles and sometimes triples.
They lead the National League in all 4 of those categories. Pokes it towards second. Easy play for Oster. And that does it in the St. Louis 6th. They throw a run on the board on Herr's double and Clark's single, and we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Bob Costas and Tony Kubek at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. Top half of the 7th. The Reds lead the Cards 4-2. It'll be Milner, Rose, and Parker for Cincinnati. Ken Daly in relief of Kurt Kepshire. Off-speed pitch for a strike. A couple of good defensive center fielders at work today. McGee for the Cardinals and this guy Milner for the Reds. Tight for a ball, 1-1.
McGee out in center field for the Cardinals. He's got a center fielder in Coleman flanking him to his right and left field. Reedus is a center fielder playing left field today for Cincinnati. Some of the prospects who came a little bit slowly may now be getting in gear for the Cincinnati Reds. Talking about Reedus and Milner. Bob Hausen came back out of retirement for the new owner. This is Marv Schott. Hausen will retire in July.
Hit softly. McGee comes in and it falls in front of him. A leadoff hit for Milner.
He started in for the shoestring catch, and then he worried about the bounce and backed off.
So many memories connected with Pete Rose. Let's go back to one of them. 1978, Shea Stadium in New York. This base hit stretched Pete Rose's hitting streak to 38, and that was a National League record. He moved past Tommy Holmes' mark of 37. Holmes played in the 40s, primarily for the Boston Braves. And, of course, Pete eventually went on to hit in 44 straight before he was stopped by the Atlanta Braves, 12 shy of Joe DiMaggio's record. Shows the bunt and takes high for a ball.
Rose, who wants to give Milner a chance to look at a few deliveries, or at least that one off Ken Daly, try and get a reading on him in case he wants to start him. He put his own hit and run on, obviously. He did that even when he wasn't managing, though.
Not going, a line drive into right center field, and Landrum won't get to it. Around second is Milner. Rose has 2 hits on the day, and now is to within 57 of what he needs to break it. 56 to tie, 57 to break it.
And that time, Landrum cuts the gap off. Ball looked like it may have had fence written all over it. Ball slicing back to Landrum, and he cuts it off.
That was just Pete's 2nd hit of the year, right-handed. He's 2 for 14 right-handed. So the Reds have runners at the corners with nobody out in the 7th. Trying to build on a 4-2 lead, and it's Parker.
And they're coming in with this guy up at the plate. And that could be dangerous. You better have quick hands on this stuff with Parker hitting.
Jammed him, and he fouled it off. Neil Allen in the Cardinal bullpen. Herzog stuck with him a long time before going to others in the stoppers role. Whitey said patience is a wonderful thing, but sometimes patience will get you fired. The 0-1. Change is high.
Daly made a great pitch, the first fastball to Parker, trying to get the ball up and in where he ties him up. Parker likes to get the hands out and the barrel of the bat out. When curveball, let's see if he goes right back up in there. Curveball is good. This curveball last year with Atlanta had that tendency to just roll and hang there. Didn't really have that bite to it. Now that he's got a little more rotation on the ball and a little bit quicker, fighting like that. Nieto wants him to shake this pitch off. Confuse or try to confuse Parker.
That's in there for a hit. Landrum does a good job getting to it. Rose wheels around second. He'll be at third. It's 5-2 Reds on the RBI single by Parker.
Bob, did you see the difference in the two curveballs? The one before that just kept on going, and Parker couldn't catch it. The next one, to show you his inconsistency, hit one of those rollers. And it just stays right there. It just didn't have the bite as the one before. It was a hanger.
3 straight singles, Milner, Rose, and Parker to open the inning. So just as the Cardinals had crept a little bit closer with a run of their own in the last of the 6th, the Reds take it right back, and it's beginning to rain more heavily now.
And with 2 right-handed hitters coming up, nicely then Concepcion, then the switch hitter. Herzog's coming out. Probably will see some kind of double switch here. Allen should be ready. Bailey would be the 4th hitter scheduled up in the 7th for the Cardinals. See if he takes Landrum out of right field, brings Daly in, or what his strategy will be.
Well, we know for sure Allen's coming in. Daly is departing, and so are we for just a minute. Ken Daly faced 7 batters, and 5 of them got base hits. So now it's Neil Allen with Nicely and Concepcion, and then Oster due. Still nobody out on the top half of the 7th. Wasn't Ken Daly's day.
Neil Allen, who has gotten to be the stopper for this ball club, doesn't have a save yet. Got hurt early. Gary Carter, opening day home run. That's happened to him several times, so he's been moved out of that pressure spot as a closer. See the ERAs walking more than he's striking out, giving up more than a hit to inning pitched, and he's got such an outstanding curveball and good fastball. Sometimes it's hard to figure out how they hit him, but they do.
He faces Nicely, who's 1 for 3, and both times he's been retired. It's been on outstanding defensive plays. Running catch by Landrum in the 2nd. Good play by Ozzie in the 5th. Ball 1 high.
Infield stays in. Cardinals can't afford to give up any more runs.
Rain continues to fall. And the count goes to 2-0.
You're seeing one of the biggest parts of his problem, getting behind hitters. There's Rose down at 3rd. Parker at 1st. He can tear you up on a double play.
That's a double play ball. They'll go that way. The run will score. 6-4-3. No RBI for Nicely. Rose comes home to make it 6-2.
It's interesting. Ozzie had a choice. He could have come home and tried to prevent Rose, but he elected to go for 2. Let's go to New York right now.
All right, Tony, in Detroit, the Tigers have finally gotten on the board against the Angels. Bottom of the 6th, Lou Whitaker with a shot into the upper deck in right. A 2-run home run, the 6th home run of the year for Whitaker. It is now a 7-2 California lead. They're in the bottom of the 7th. Back to Bob and Tony.
Thanks, Bill. Strike 1 to Concepcion, who has single, doubled, and walked.
It's interesting. I think Ozzie Smith had to be looking out of the corner of his eye to cut down what turned out to be another run. But Pete Rose got such a good jump off 3rd base, Ozzie decided to go for the double play.
One-two pitch. Curveball fouled off. Suter gone and Allen largely ineffective. It's been a juggling act for Herzog. Lottie, Campbell, Horton, Daly. And he's been in this situation before. His days with Kansas City were pre-Dan Quisenberry. 2-2. He won division titles without a true stopper in the bullpen. Juggling Littell, Bird, Mingori, people like that. He had the great line. They were so inconsistent. They asked him how he decided who to use. He said, I used the guy who was lousy the last time. Ozzie comes in. One shortstop throws out the other. Concepcion is gone, but 2 insurance runs on the board in the top of the 7th for the Reds. They lead it 6-2. And now here's another edition of Baseball Remembered. this is the one-time Cincinnati closer, Tom Hume. That role now played by Ted Power in their bullpen.
He isn't getting a whole lot of work. He's coming off that knee surgery, and he tried to rush himself back a little too soon. It may have hurt him. Then he came up with some arm problems. He's striking out almost one per inning pitch, but walking a few too many. So Rose breaking him in kind of easily. Here's Steve Braun up the pinch hit.
Braun bats for Landrum, with the left-hander Browning having been replaced by the righty Hume.
Leading off and batting for Cheeto Landrum, number 26.
If the Reds hold the 6-2 lead, Browning gets the win, and he'll be 5-4. Kepshire would be the loser, and he'd fall to 2-5.
Braun as a pinch hitter, 2 for 13. No runs batted in.
But through the years, one of the outstanding pinch hitters in baseball history. Ball one.
You got this many switch hitters in the lineup. You don't use your pinch hitters a whole lot.
It's raining pretty hard now. 3-0. Ozzie Smith on deck, and then Nieto, although it's possible that Porter would hit for him.
Tommy Hume, as we look at Oz, walked 10 in 21 innings pitched. Boy, for a reliever, that'll get you in a lot of trouble.
He opens by passing Braun on 4 pitches.
Shortstop, Ozzie Smith.
Hume's always had that good slider, and used to run the fastball, sink it on occasion. In fact, he told me, he said, I feel too strong because I haven't pitched so much, and my fastball is harder, but it's straighter.
You saw Rose a moment ago looking toward Tom Hume on the mound. That's all he can do without being charged for a trip. If he walks onto the mound, other than to take a couple of steps toward him and shout some encouragement or tell him how many outs there are, if he walks to the mound, as Concepcion is doing now, and as nicely is doing, that's just the same as if Herzog came off the bench for the Cardinals and visited his pitcher. And a second trip, pitcher's got to go.
That's why Pete Rose has a signal with his shortstop Concepcion, the veteran aside from himself on the infield, when he wants him to go out and settle a guy down. So it saves that trip.
The 1-0 to Ozzie Smith. Hume gets it over 1-1.
Krenschicki's got to be careful down on third base. He's up about even with the bag, but Ozzie to try and keep a rally going or get it started. Put it past him to lay one down and try and beat it up. Get a couple of men on with nobody out.
Strike 2 call. Slow roller to Oster. The flip to Concepcion for 1 and on to Rose for the double play. I thought it might have been hit too slowly. Ozzie got out of the box quickly, but the Reds turned it over in a hurry.
There was no wasted motion on this. Look at the quick flip out of the glove, and Concepcion, the ball didn't look like it hit his glove, and they had to do it that quickly to get Smith from the left side. Oster's been always a little bit underrated in my book as second baseman. You know, he's tall, and he's not the prototypical second baseman. You look for that little quick guy, but he covers ground.
Swing and a miss by Nieto. Oster came up as a shortstop, and because of the presence of Concepcion, they had to shift him to second base. He's performed capably there. Breaking ball is low, 1-1. 6 runs, 11 hits, no errors for the Reds. 2, 6, and 1 for the Cardinals. Into center field with Milner coming on. He's there. So for the Cards in the 7th. No runs, no hits, a walk. As a result of the double play, nobody left. 6-2 Cincy. Tony spoke earlier of the great Cardinal tradition. Some people who were part of it in the booth just off to our left. Bob Gibson, Hall of Famer, of course, one of the great right-handers of all time, member of 3 Cardinal pennant-winning teams, 64, 67, and 68, 7-2 in World Series play, just to Gibby's left. The broadcast team for the Cardinals, Mike Shannon and Jack Buck. Ron Oster leads it off, top of the 8th, and rolls out to Tommy Herr. Shannon was on those Cardinal teams. 64, the right fielder, as they beat the Yankees. 67, moved to third base to make room for Roger Maris. Cards beat the Red Sox in the series. Then 68, Shannon also at third when they went 7 before losing to the Tigers.
Probably more than anybody else, Gibson's ERA of just over 1 that Cy Young Award year. There's Braun in right field. Probably more than anybody else responsible for that pitcher's mound being lowered from 15 to 10 inches. Take a little edge away from guys like Gibson and Drysdale and Koufax and Marichal and you name it. Ford. On the mound.
Braun, who batted for Landrum, remains in the game and plays right field. Tap foul by Krenshicky, 1-2.
I can see the Cardinals contending with their run production and defense if they get a little more help from Allen. Tudor's got to do nothing but get better.
Braun closing ground on this one, and he chases it down. So now Hume will get a rare at-bat.
Pitcher Tom Hume.
Glancing over at that press box as we were a moment ago.
Excuse me, Bob, I didn't mean to interrupt, but there's something wrong with Nieto. He went out from behind home plate, and he wasn't talking to Allen. Allen came down. I don't know if something happened to Nieto, and Allen came down to see how he was. Now he's back behind the plate.
And Hume takes a strike. One of the great baseball writers of all time. Nieto is having
wrong with
trouble.
Yeah. I didn't see him get hit by a pitch or anything, and he wants to stay in, obviously. He's buying some time by stepping out from behind the plate.
Don't see Gene Gieselman coming out, the Cardinal trainer.
It's a humid day, but not like some days in July and August and even September in St. Louis with that high humidity and near 100-degree temperature. So
Allen is ahead of Hume, 0-2. Neal worked 2 encouraging innings in Atlanta a few days ago. That's a strike. Nieto will have to chase it down and throw to first. His throw is low, and Hume is on.
Something's wrong with Nieto. Now, he's bending down again. I don't know if it's a blurriness of vision or what, but it's a fastball that went right off the tip of his glove. And he's having problems with something, folks. We don't know what yet. It's a fastball that goes right off the webbing or through the webbing of his glove.
So Allen gets credit for the strikeout on either a pass ball or a wild pitch.
Strikeout,
pass ball, I'm
ball.
guessing. Reedus drills one to deep center. Back goes Willie McGee, way back, and in front of the 414 sign, he makes a graceful catch. He's become a joy to watch out there in center field. One more look. 6-2 Reds. We don't know for sure what's wrong with Tom Nieto. He was talking with Cardinal trainer Gene Gieselman a moment ago. Meanwhile, as we move to the last half of the 8th, Mike Jorgensen will bat for Allen. There's Gieselman talking with Nieto.
Hitting off the batting for Neil Allen, number 19.
The speed of the Cardinals certainly has caught on. A little over 35,000 here today for the Saturday afternoon game. They're averaging 27,000 per home game. You think Vince Coleman isn't responsible for some of it in his rookie season? Along with Jack Clark. I'm not slighting anybody else, but boy, that speed has created some excitement around here.
It doesn't hurt that this is basically a great baseball town, and if you give them anything at all to watch, they're coming. 1-0 pitch to Jorgie. 2-0. We looked at Bob Gibson in the press box a moment ago. One of the few unpleasant memories in Gibby's career includes Jorgensen. Jorgensen hit a homer late in the season, last game or two of the season in 1974, when playing for the Expos off Gibson, that knocked the Cardinals out of the pennant race.
He's 2 for 9 with 2 RBIs as a pinch hitter.
Back to Hume. Pete hadn't gotten there yet, but he had enough time to do a little dance and step on the bag.
Pete was playing very deeply for the left-hand hitter, trying to cut the gap off of the artificial surface.
Coleman has walked, struck out, and fouled out. That's left-handed against Hume. Strike 1 to him. Hume is quickly ahead 0-2.
I asked Coleman if he'd ever been timed in high school in a 100-yard dash. He said, I didn't run track, he said, but when the college football game I participated was run, he said, we all had to be clocked. From 40 yards, he said, I had a 4.2. Now, you do a lot of football, and that has to be one of the top times that you can ever get.
Oh, you get a running back or a wide receiver at 4.2. You're talking about one of the fastest in the entire league. 4.5, 4.6, that's an excellent time. One of the things Herzog really likes about Vince Coleman is what a bright kid he is and how well he takes instruction. They hesitated about getting rid of Lonnie Smith. Now, keep in mind, Coleman now has 32 because he's stolen one today. He missed the first 9 games this year. So he's ahead of Lou Brock's 1974 pace, although behind the incredible pace of Ricky Henderson in 82.
There's a name that is not on there. We're not sliding him, but the year that Maury Wills stole over 100 and was caught 13 times on dirt and grass when they muddied infields. Pitchers could throw all kinds of balk moves at you and get away with them. They're enforcing that more strictly now.
Percentage-wise, Maury's performance was the best. 104 steals, 13 times thrown out. When Brock swiped 118, he was caught 37 times. Foul ball off his foot. When Henderson stole the 130, as great an achievement as that was, he was thrown out about 40 times, maybe more.
If he stays healthy, he may rewrite the record book, but Henderson is still very, very young, isn't he, now with New York? Just in his mid-20s.
Gary Pettis of the Angels may put his name into the argument. You got Tim Raines up in Montreal, still in the prime of his career. Juan Samuel, great rookie year last year with the Phillies.
Here he comes. You better hurry, pal.
He barely got him.
You better hurry.
Oh, he called him safe.
I think Rose was off the back. Pete Rose may have cheated a little too much, and that's what Harry Wendelstedt says. And that's what Speed does with 1 out. Coleman may have started an inning. We'll see. We're going to give you the time. Remember, the average time for the left side is 4.2. See if we can freeze it when his foot hits the base. 3.6. When average time from the left side, average Major League time is 4.2. And that speed may have caused Rose to cheat a little too much. And I'll guarantee you, if he ever learns how to drag bunt when he's running out of the box, look at the time Oster's taken. The ball was in Pete's glove before Coleman's foot at the bag. Pete can't believe it. Harry Wendelstedt. Only thing I can figure out is Coleman's gone.
There he goes. He's in there. Coleman with a little smile as he was nudged off the bag.
Concepcion may have gotten spiked. Or jammed his knee when he came down. I mean, he doesn't just slide to the bag either. He's like Ricky Henderson. He slides through it. So he does not lose momentum as he hits the dirt path. Just keeps on barreling through.
2 today and 33 for the year. He's been caught 8 times. But his percentage actually has improved after his first 10 games or so. He was caught about 5 times in his first 18 or 20 attempts, and since then, he's been almost perfect.
What do you have, 145 in the minor league for AAA and missed 30 ball games one year? He is just learning to read pitchers.
And there's an intangible factor here. This is a 6-2 ball game. The importance, when you look at it on the one hand, of that base can't be very much, but it's electrified the crowd. It's picked the whole atmosphere up. 0-1 pitch to McGee. Breaking ball grounded to Oster. That's the second out, and Coleman is at third base.
As far as the word we have gotten, not officially yet, they have given Coleman a base hit, so apparently Harry Wendelstedt felt that Coleman had beaten the play. If Rose did go off the bag too soon, he would have been charged with an error. No error registered yet for Cincinnati.
Tommy Herr is 1 for 3 today. He's reached base with a hit or a walk in all but one of the Cardinals' 45 games this year. He and Bob Forsch are the only players remaining from the team Whitey Herzog took over in June of 1980. Forsch pitches tomorrow against Jay Tibbs of the Reds.
That's why he was down earlier with Johnny Lewis with a radar gun and charting pitches and observing from behind home plate low, which I believe is illegal. I don't think he's supposed to be there. Player on a roster during the course of a ball game, you could be stealing signs and relaying them. But we thought we had a glimpse of him in that well a little bit earlier.
Coleman at third with 2 outs, last half of the 8th. A ball and a strike to Herr, and the Reds lead the game 6-2. Is on deck. Cards began the day 4 back of the Mets in the East. The Reds 4 back of San Diego in the West. Up the middle, but Oster has it go off his glove for an error, and Coleman scores.
Looked like he closed that glove too soon. Got a little bit of speed, especially from the left side, and Oster went over and started closing the glove and moving away toward first base to get in position to throw, and it bounced off right off the little finger.
First baseman, Jack.
So an unearned run on the Oster error. And Jack Clark steps up. He's 2 for 3 today, a double and a single. He had homer number 10 on the season last night.
Guy who was so overlooked out there in San Francisco playing in that wind tunnel. You talk to all the pitchers in the National League and ask them to rate the most dangerous, fearsome hitters they do not like to face. His name would be right there. Right with Dale Murphy, Dawson's. In fact, ahead of some that you might not think.
One and one. So some would say it would go against the book. Stealing a base, trailing 6-2 late in the game. If Coleman doesn't steal that base, he doesn't score on the ground out which moved him to third and then the error.
Not when your percentage of success is like 85 or 87%, which is about what the Cardinals will do with most of their base stealers, McGee. So Whitey Herzog said, hey, we live and we're going to die by it. We'll score our runs that way, and I'm not going to stop. In fact, he said the other day coming out of Atlanta where they won 2 out of 3 and didn't steal 1 base beating Atlanta because they wet the field. He said, when we're ahead at home 10-0, I'm going to keep on running. I don't care.
Foul back 2-2.
Does he ever have a bad swing? Wow.
You saw Porter a moment ago in the dugout behind Whitey Herzog. He's put the catching equipment on. So whatever Nieto's problem is, he's done for the day. Ted Power is the right-hander. John Franco is the left-hander. 2-2 pitch. The count is full. If he walks him, the tying run would come to the plate. And we'll do it all over again.
He threw him a 3-2 slider, and it was up in his wheelhouse. I'm trying to think of a guy who reminds me of the way he swings. I go way back to Bob Serve. He just swung so hard at everything, like a lumberjack. I mean, Serve didn't have a whole lot of finesse when he swung the bat, but there's the slider. That was a little bit of a hanger upstairs.
He walked him. So the Cardinals have something going here in the 8th. And they haven't hit a ball hard in the process, really. Jorgensen grounded back to the mound. Coleman reached on a disputed infield hit when Oster nonchalanted it, forgetting about Coleman's speed. Coleman stole second, moved to third on a Willie McGee groundout, came home on an error by Oster on Herr's grounder, and now Clark has walked. Pendleton. First pitch swinging, another chance for Oster. This time he handles it flawlessly, and the Cardinals are done in the 8th. They come up with a run, but still trail by 3. Bob Costas and Tony Kubek back at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. Tony, while I have a chance, missing from the press box today, one of the great baseball writers, a guy who genuinely loves the game. He's chronicled St. Louis Cardinal history for a long time. Bob Bragg of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch recently underwent some very serious bypass surgery, but we understand he's doing well. Probably watching the game. Seldom misses one. Bob, we wish you well. Hope to have you back soon.
Well, he's part of that tradition, along with the Russos, and now Rick Hummel picking it up. The great writers and great players have come through here. Soup Campbell. Bill Campbell comes on to pitch. Porter, as Nieto leaves the ball game, still haven't got an official report. And down at first base, an outstanding defensive first baseman, Mike Jorgensen. Campbell just gave them 4 innings in relief of Andujar, who left after 5. That was on Thursday in Atlanta. That screwball and herky-jerky motion. Pendleton comes in case they want to lay a bunt down. There's a screwball.
1-1 the count. It's been raining pretty steadily the last 2-3 innings. But it looks like they'll get the full 9 in. Muggy day, so actually it might be a little more comfortable now in those stands. Something to cool you off.
Got a
See
chance.
if this is playable. Pendleton slides into the Cincinnati dugout, and Porter follows him. They come out with big smiles, but no catch.
Give him an 8 at least. What an effort. He knew right where he was. Didn't want to go headlong in there. And surprisingly gets a little help from the opposition. Look at Porter trying to jerk him back out of there. Mario Soto helping out. Great right-hander.
A ball and 2 strikes to Milner.
You get a chance. July 16th from Minnesota, the Metrodome. That's the All-Star game, and the honorary captains named by Commissioner Peter Ueberroth, Hall of Famer Harmon Killebrew. And that left-hander, Sandy Koufax from the Dodgers, will be the honorary captain. What, they coach 1 inning, don't they? 5th inning, they go out in the coaching lines.
First base, I think.
Killebrew hit more home runs as a right-handed hitter than anybody else in the history of the American League. Aaron got a bunch of those in the National League.
And Frank Robinson had a higher lifetime total than Killebrew, but combined National and American League, as you said. 2-2 to Milner. At the end of the game, we're going to select the light beer from Miller MVP. If the lead is protected, I'd go with Browning. What do you think?
Yeah, he did a nice job.
High chopper. Jorgensen in foul ground. When Killebrew and Koufax get together at the All-Star game, sure part of the conversation will include the 1965 World Series. Twins had the Dodgers down 2-0 after they left Minnesota. Dodgers won 3 straight in L.A. Mudcat Grant took that 6th game and evened it up. And then Koufax, on 2 days rest, pitched a 2-0 shutout in the 7th game. Ozzie comes in. Milner runs well, and he beat it out.
Ozzie doesn't play a very deep shortstop. Doesn't have a gun for an arm. With 2 strikes, he moved back a little bit. Milner just showed that chopping and running style, so he's on. He is so quick. What he lacks in arm strength, he makes more than up for in quickness of getting the ball out of his glove and getting rid of the ball with that quick snap throw.
Rose has 2 hits already. Early Pete Rose, vintage 1963, his rookie season.
The year that Whitey Ford nicknamed him Charlie Hustle.
Played against him in a spring training game down in Florida. Rose ran to first base after a walk, as would become one of his trademarks. But he said, there he is, Charlie Hustle. 2 for 4 today. 57 away from breaking Cobb's record. Miller diving back.
He's got 9 stolen bases. And Porter yelling out to Campbell, even though he's a veteran, to hold him close, change your delivery, step off, throw over. Rose from the left side will give a little more protection to Milner.
There he goes.
Didn't get a good jump.
Porter's throw, safe. Good sweep tag attempt by Ozzie. It was a tough throw to handle. And in one motion, he scooped it up and tried for the tag, but couldn't quite get it done.
With a guy like Rose hitting, a shortstop's got to hold his position as long as possible. He did not have a good jump, but when the ball bounced, that was enough. Ozzie trying to hold his spot, didn't get there in time to straddle the bag. If Ozzie's there straddling the bag, but you kind of caught halfway between if you're a shortstop. He's got a chance. He didn't want to leave the shortstop vacated. Good call by the second base umpire, Terry Tata.
As you said, Tony, Milner didn't get much of a jump, but the pitch was in the dirt, and then Porter had a little trouble releasing. Pitch to Rose. Took something off, and Pete was out in front.
You don't know what to swing at off a guy like Campbell. He's got the screwball, the slow curve, a little slider. Comes from over the top, 3/4 from the side. All different angles, and he's swinging on elbows and kneecaps, and then the ball comes through. Changes speed so well on the screwball. That's what that last one was, a harder screwball.
3-1. Parker on deck. It's really coming down now.
This is that drain-through turf we mentioned where you don't need the Zamboni to suck the water up. It just goes right on through to the drainage system. In fact, you have to water it to keep the dirt out of the drainage tiles beneath the turf. Keep them clear. George Tola, the Kansas City trainer, gave me a great demonstration when they threw just buckets and buckets of water on there, and in 5 minutes, it was all gone.
What's the date? Rose's guest. August 10th?
6th, I thought he said.
6th.
He'd already had it if not for the 50-day strike a few years back.
They'll have to build an annex onto the press box as he gets closer and closer. Reaches for one and taps it foul. Can you imagine the circus that's going to be every day on the field as the big moment approaches? If anybody thrives in that atmosphere, it's this guy right here.
And he has made a point of saying, you writers and media people, TV, radio, can ask me all you want to talk about me, but I will always, always use it as a vehicle to promote my team. I'm going to bring up Tom Browning, the job he's done. I'm going to bring up Oster and Concepcion and Parker. He said, you're going to give me the microphone, want me to talk about me, and I refuse to.
Jorgensen goes there himself for the first out with Milner advancing to third.
He's heard something, probably trying to beat that ball up. Lunge for that bag, he may have jammed the heel. California 9, Detroit 2, that ball game in the 9th inning. Toronto 5, they keep on going in the 8th. 5-3 over Cleveland. Boston, Bobby Valentine getting beat 6-0 in the 6th.
Texas is 8-6 before today under Valentine since he replaced Doug Rader.
Rader will have a job somewhere. He's a good baseball mind. Don't know how long it'll take, but he'll manage again.
They're going to walk Parker intentionally and pitch to Nicely. With Rose's ground out, he's now 2 for 5 on the day. Pete came into the game, if you weren't with us at the start of the day, at 277, so he's up that a little bit.
Parker, you look at Whitey Herzog, one of those named to call in front of the grand jury investigation in Pittsburgh, and apparently the biggest part of that mess is over with. We hope. It's interesting how some people have made to be heroes, and they've gotten involved with chemicals. The former president's wife has written books, and it's been glamorizing it as well. It should be. Because of actors, actresses, entertainers, and the ball players, and they are making a lot of money. Some writers are writing about them, that what are they doing to my America, our kids' idols? And I think that's a little unfair. It's going a little bit too far the other way. I'm just happy it's almost over with, not completely.
Here's Nicely. As Parker is chased back. In fairness, any ball player who has come forward and has gone through rehabilitation has been treated like something of a hero when he is returned. Darryl Porter, Willie Wilson, all those people. I don't think anybody wants to be vindictive about it. Most fans are not vindictive about it. Big swing and a miss.
And that's the part I liked about the commissioner's, some of his proposals. He does not want a punitive system. Yeah, he wants rehabilitation, treatment, aftercare, et cetera, et cetera. If a guy keeps doing it or is a dealer or a pusher, he's going to get hit hard. In the present joint agreement allows for a lot of those things. It's not perfect, but it's starting to work.
Campbell bluffs the throw, which you can do toward third base.
This year, they've added a little wrinkle to that. You used to be able to just step and not fake a throw. This year, they have said you have to at least fake a throw if you're going to decoy.
1-1. I think the basic attitude of most people within baseball, most writers, most fans, is if a person has a legitimate problem and he comes forward, we support him, we give him a second, maybe even a third chance. But it's a cancer within the game as long as the cloud of doubt hovers overhead. And the innocent are tainted by it almost as much as the guilty.
Big slow curveball. Nicely. Way out in front. You wail away at that baby that hard, you're going to have trouble making contact. The head flew out and everything else. He may go back to try to hit this one the opposite way now.
A 1-2 pitch. Way high, 2-2. Nicely has hit the ball solidly 3 of 4 trips and has only 1 hit to show for it.
This will be interesting. 2-2. Pete Rose may start the runner. Nicely a double play candidate up there. Start Parker. In theory, if you're going to start him 3-2, might as well start him 2-2. Another
Campbell.
Campbell tried something even trickier that time, didn't he? We're going to see if Parker was going to tip something off.
Nicely did hit into a double play his last time. Parker's not going. Curveball hit foul. Looked like that one fan was planning on using the umbrella as a net to gather that one in. The guy in the seat next to him got it instead.
What you call real bad hands. Nicely is spread out now for the off-speed stuff. Almost took no stride. I'm sure he's telling himself, like most hitters, wait. Don't pull the trigger too soon. It's hard to do. And then just when you think he's going to throw you a changeup, he zips that little fastball up there. Not hard, but in relation to the changeup, he jams you or sneaks it by you.
When it comes to holding runners on, Campbell has got to be tricky. He's got to alter his rhythm. He's got to develop the good pickoff move and try different things because his motion is so elaborate that on the motion itself, runners have a good chance to steal.
Whoa.
Look out! This one is long gone. Nicely had an opportunity to admire it. He launched it about 415 feet off Campbell. A 3-run homer that should put the capper on it. It's 9-3 Reds.
Third one for Alan Nicely of the season. Bill Campbell, I would think, is saying, did I throw one too many slow curveballs? Or he might be saying, hey, good pitch, but bad location. He stayed right there inside part of the plate. A long tater. Just missed hitting the facade of the upper deck. Marty Marion still work up there?
He owns the stadium club.
Isn't that the area he works up there? The former great Cardinals shortstop, part of that tradition. Popular man here.
And of course, he's part of the debate. People talk about the great fielding shortstops of all time. That discussion is especially vivid in St. Louis, where the old-timers can compare Marion to Ozzie Smith.
Boy, what different styles, huh? Shortstop, tall and slender, about 6'3", as opposed to the quickness, acrobatic nature of Ozzie Smith. I never saw Marion, but I've heard a lot of people talk about how great he was.
Slats and the Wizard of Oz. Pendleton on the short hop. 2 out.
The Cardinals defense kept their team in the game about as long as they could, didn't they? Well, they made some plays. This game could have been a blowout a lot before this. Not for about 4 outstanding plays. Landrum, Smith, Herr made a nice one. Throw by McGee.
Well, Nicely had been robbed twice, so he decided to put one where no one would have a crack at it. Ball 1 to Oster.
You appreciate guys like this a lot more who've been sent to the minors, traded around, told they can't do this, do that. They just keep on working, battle their way back.
Herr will throw Oster out, but the Reds score 3 times, and it was nicely done. They lead 9-3. Steve Braun leads it off against Tom Hume in the 9th and takes ball 1. The homer in the top half of the inning was an especially sweet moment for Alan Nicely because they had walked Parker intentionally to get at it. He made the Cardinals pay. 1-1. 2-1.
Just thinking of that shot that he showed over the top. The home plate umpire Jerry Davis. I've seen just one guy, and not a catcher yet, turn on him, and no pitchers have really argued. Maybe 1 or 2 calls. I figure the way Kepshire was all over the park with his control, there really haven't been many guys turn on, so he's done a good job behind the plate. He's gone unnoticed, and sometimes we forget to mention what good jobs they do. It's called a good ball game. Is he soaking wet? Perspiration and rain.
It's been coming down steadily for the past 4 innings. Over Hume's glove, but Oster is there to backhand it and throws him out. The Major League Baseball Game of the Week has been brought to you by light beer from Miller. Everything you've always wanted in a beer and less. By Ford, who invites you to drive the new Ford Escort. Have you driven a Ford lately? By AT&T Telephones, the right choice. And by Sears, where you'll find great values. There's more for your life at Sears. Strike 1 to Ozzie Smith.
You get better at that every week, you know that? A couple of years you can have that down. I keep working with you.
Another chance for Oster, a busy day for him. 2 gone in the St. Louis 9th.
This is what Hume was looking for, a little more work so he could get that sinker ball down and start getting some grounders.
Catcher Darrell Porter.
Darrell Porter now will get his first at-bat. He replaced the injured Nieto an inning ago. This week's NBC Light Beer from Miller Player of the Game will be split between Tom Browning, who'll be the winning pitcher, and this man, Alan Nicely. And Light Beer from Miller is happy to present a check for $1,000 in the names of Browning and Nicely to help fight multiple sclerosis. Rose to his right. Hume covers, and that'll do it. The Reds win it by a score of 9-3. Browning is the winner. Kepshire is the loser. For Tony Kubek and our statistician Steve Horn and Steve Dans, who produced it, so long.